Yes, today we're joined by Glens Vodka Championship Manager for December, Ian Murray. Congratulations, mate.
Thank you.
Delighted to receive it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a recognition of how well the players have done, firstly, and how well the club.
I get the players, mate. It's all you. Fuck.
Nah.
I need to say hospitality's been first class, mate. Thanks very much. Lunch.
No problem.
We chat. Boys are lovely boys, aren't they? Nice.
Really good bunch. Really happy environment.
Ugly team. Captain by Scott Brown.
So. Bruni, he's been brilliant for us though. Great lad as well, real leader, and gets the boys going.
Be honest, so because we made him captain at Peterhead as well, it is because he'll be sitting next to you in the team photo and he'll make you look better.
Absolutely, but he's not the only one.
Right, mate. Month of December, sitting top of the league, club progressing on and off the pitch. What a time to be at Raith Rovers, eh?
Yeah, it's been really good. We've obviously had a decent season so far, and we just try to keep going. And I mean, I think a lot of the credit has to go to the new board that have come in and really helped me, to be honest, in terms of infrastructure that we've put in place and the backing that we've been given in terms of getting players in and out. And you'll see it around here now. If you walked in here this time last season, this didn't exist. This was a completely different stadium.
All right, so is that what they've came in and they've changed everything?
Pretty much, yeah. We had a couple of decisions to make at the time. Do we go really large on a playing budget, or do we go large or split it more between environment and keeping our budget kind of basically the same as what we were at last season? So to put that myth to bed that we've got spades of money to throw about, we don't. But what we have done, invested heavily in the players' environment. The changing rooms are amazing. Probably will be the best in the league, to be honest. My surroundings are probably the best in the league as well, and that's now rubbing off on the park. So at the moment, it looks like we've made the right decisions.
I watched a wee bit of training and intensity was really good. Just to give people an insight into how you work, who takes training? I've seen you, Colin Cameron and John Potter out there. How do you kind of split?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. I'll come in and plan the session. Colin, now we've worked together a couple of times, and for a bit of period of time, so he knows how I work. And Potsy comes out and just gives us another set of eyes and speaks to the players and gets a feel of maybe one or two things that we're not seeing or not feeling in terms of. It could be anything, home life, fatigue, whatever it may be. But the players are brilliant. We were discussing out there with Potsy today in terms of. You're not worried now when you come on the training park and what you're going to get. You're going to get 100% every session. You're going to get intensity every session. You're going to get loads of mistakes as well in there, and you're going to have days where the session's not as high quality as others. But in terms of the appetite and hunger and desire to go and be football players, these guys are incredible.
What I really like about your team, I'm not just saying this to be up your arse, even when you were Airdrie manager we used to play against you, was how attacking you were. It really is attacking football. People use this word identity now, but would you say that is your identity as a football team?
I think it's becoming more that way. I don't think I ever set out to be this all attack and all action manager. I was probably progressed and evolved as I got more experience. I started at Dumbarton where we didn't really have the players to go all out attack. We had guys that were honest and working hard and were in a really tough league. And then at Airdrie, you kind of just find players and you think, how do I get as many of my good players on the park as I possibly can at once without being crazy. We're never going to go, well, we've done it but a couple of times, but we don't set out to go, leave two at the back and both full backs must go high. We try and move as a team and as a unit, but I don't really want to sit behind the ball and wait for the other team to give me the ball back. I want to go and get the ball. I think that was me as a player probably. That was my game. I wasn't technically brilliant, but go and get the ball back. I'll take it off you and then we'll go and start an attack, and try to emphasise that on the team. And I think with the players that we've got and the players that we've signed, that's our best form of defence.
Yeah, love it. You do give us nightmares as well, though, because I don't know if you remember it, my last ever game was against your Airdrie team. Do you remember what happened?
Was that 1-1?
Was it 1-1 or you beat us and I scored an own goal?
Own goal, 1-1. I was really happy because that got us the record of undefeated games at Airdrie.
Did it?
And Bruni misses a penalty.
So he did score, missed the penalty. He knew he was coming with you, that's why he done it.
He double tapped it.
Nightmares, mate.
That's right, 1-1, aye, that's right.
Some big results again this month. 1-0 win at Dundee United, so that must have been the highlight of the month.
Yeah, I think so. We'd had a really tough week. We had Partick Thistle here the Friday night, which was a crazy game, 4-3. We then went up to Arbroath and I wouldn't say we stole a win in terms of the game, but we stole a 95th minute goal where it looked a draw all night long, to be honest, and it was a really tough game. So that put us in a position to go to Tannadice. I think maybe 2 points ahead, something like that, I can't remember. And then we went up to Tannadice, played played all right in the first half, solid enough, which was good. Wasn't loads of quality in the game, but it was a really highly competitive game. And then Dylan obviously comes up with
Brilliant.
that just moment of magic, really. And that's Dylan. He's playing left wing or left midfield, and he ends up in the right hand corner and twists and turns and puts an incredible effort at the back of the net. But yeah, we took 2,000 fans up to that game. The noise and the backing that they gave us was amazing and incredible, and we repaid them.
See, on Dylan, I wanted to ask you, because I've watched a lot of your games, especially the Friday night games, and sometimes, like you say, you find it hard to see where Dylan's actually playing because he does roam. Do you work within like a set structure, but then there's certain players where you can just go and let them do what they like? Yeah,
Dylan falls into that category perfectly. Dylan's starts on the left, and the thing is with Dylan, he gets frustrated when he's not getting the ball, or he doesn't feel he's getting the ball enough, and then he goes looking for it, and he can end up anywhere.
Yeah.
And I think you can let him do it to a certain extent, but against really good teams or periods in games where you're maybe under a bit of pressure, then we have to, he is learning it just to stay in your position. And I understand loads of managers like their players to stay in position, and that's where you stay, and you run there or you move there, but you don't go there. I think with guys like Dylan and Vonnie and other Jamie Gullins and Aidan Conley to a certain extent, and Sam Stantons, you have to let them go and roam. They're very intelligent footballers, so they know what they're doing. If they lose the ball, are we a bit light sometimes at back? Yeah, we are transitionally. We need to improve a little bit, but you can't get everything. I'm more than happy to sacrifice our defensive side of our play for our attacking side. Yeah,
even my missus knows you need to change positions, mate. You can't keep the same one all the time. See, on the Dundee United game, obviously such a massive game. What does preparation look for like a game like that? Do you prepare the same way for every single team you play in the Championship, or is it a wee bit more because Dundee United have got certain threats? Do you prepare a wee bit more for them?
I think it depends on your week leading up to the game. Obviously, Dundee United game was a busy week, midweek game. We didn't train very much that week. We had to recover boys. That was the most important thing: recovery and getting ready again for the game. On the Saturday, if you've got a full working week, then it changes slightly. You look at the opposition a bit more in terms of, again, I look at their back line first. I don't look at their forward line. Also, do they play a 3 or a 4? That's our starting base, and then maybe affects our training going into that week. But all of our training is really attacking stuff, if I'm being honest, and it's kind of lots of counter-attack drills, but again in my head I'm always the defenders are defending, so we're getting a little bit of both in the session. But look, the guys footballers come to play football. They come to enjoy themselves. They come to get the ball out as quick as we can, and so far so good.
Just going on, last year finished 7th. You said about the board coming in. Has that been the key change that's seen you develop so much this year?
Yeah, I think John Sim, who was the owner of the club last year, still on the board and still a huge part of the football club, deserves a lot of credit as well, because this was a football club that was struggling. I think we've all been places where you walk in the door and you're ready to go and new challenge, and then think sometimes what have I done?
Really?
Because because the club was running on fumes. We were really struggling with loads of players signed. We didn't really have much scope in the transfer market to go and get players. The place needed a little bit of TLC. So we had to deal with a lot. We had to try and, I'll be honest, I said to John at the time, I said, John, I'm looking at from an outsider coming in, we could be in a bit of bother this season, in my opinion, of our squad. And John was very understanding about all that. Publicly, we wanted to try and get the playoffs, but I think internally we knew it was a really, really big ask. And as much as we wanted to be in the playoffs, we could easily be in the league below.
See, have you talked about the changes since the new board came in? I like to find it I get a real good insight into your job. So you talk about now players coming in, players going out. Is that you that does that now, or have you got a system in place where people go and watch players and they come back to you with players?
We've brought in a new scouting network, which is really, really good. So we're all, we've got a much larger coverage of database of players that I like, that maybe Colin Cameron's seen, that our scouts have seen, that Andrew Barrowman has seen, John Potter has seen, and then we get together and we go down the list and have a look and see where we think we need to improve, who we think are realistic targets, and also already guys at what we've got. So it's a huge collective effort. It really is, and I know everybody says that about their football club, but here it is. Everybody's in. We talk football all the time. We talk about how can we make our club better commercially, how can we help the players' environment. So between all of us, we've got a really good network, a really good infrastructure in place. But again, we always want to improve.
Did the boy Ferry, if he Peterhead, never
It's no crop
never
up. Yeah,
came
it's
up
still
once?
time. Loads of time. Loads of
Oh,
time.
oh,
There's
it came
loads
up?
of time.
Well, where was the offer?
Nah, too expensive.
Not too safe, and I'd be too safe to play in your team at sideways and back.
Sideways, you go sideways.
Sideways, mate. So, see on that, is the job easier this year than it was last year then? Or is it still just as tough?
It's just as tough. There's certain aspects of the job that are definitely being made easier for myself with the help of the new guys, agents and stuff, which is not something I particularly enjoy, and scrambling about and trying to work out where can we save money there to give somebody else it there. That's nothing to do with me anymore, which is great. And it was the same at Airdrie. I had Stuart Miller, who was helping me immensely, and the owners at Airdrie. And on the flip side, at St Mirren and Dumbarton, I had to do all that. So that's one aspect of the job that I really don't miss. And I'm really grateful that John and Andrew and the rest of the guys are doing that for me. It makes my life a lot easier and lets me concentrate on the important stuff, which is out there with the guys and managing a team and trying to make sure that they are all right rather than anything else. And then on the flip side, you're sitting top of the league after 20 games. People are getting a wee bit excited. You have to try and manage that. And I don't mean the players. Players are very focused, but the fans are excited, and rightly so. They deserve to be. A little bit of media coverage coming our way, so we have to deal with that. So it kind of, have to balance it out a little bit, and it flips around a little bit. But overall, I'm really enjoying my job. That's the main thing, and I'm looking forward to seeing where we end up.
Not just enjoying your job, but also the acting abilities.
Again.
Talk us through that. Did you need to be persuaded to do that, or?
I took a few days to have a think about it, but I felt the way our social media was going and the way the guys are running that and making up, thinking outside the box, and I felt it was a bit of good fun. It's the way the club wants to go with the socials, and that's absolutely fine. It also shows people that don't know you a little bit of a human side to you, rather than this guy who stands on the touchline and shouting and swearing and getting involved with people and all this sort of stuff. But I tell you, it took us ages. It took us about 3 hours.
Mate,
3 hours or about 3 minutes.
Just on the Colin Cameron thing, so he was obviously a Hearts legend, did you used to kick fuck at each other?
Yeah, we did. We're both aggressive players.
Yeah.
And that era was aggressive anyway.
And middle of the pitch at times.
Middle of the park, yeah. But I'd only caught playing against Colin a few times because he moved obviously down to Wolves and I was just breaking through. But yeah, we used to play against each other, obviously involved with each other at Scotland as well. And he was manager of Cowdenbeath when I was a manager of Dumbarton. So our paths have crossed on a few different times or a few different things. But I always like to remind Mickey that he scored against Hibs, but it was a 6-2 game.
So who would win most of the games?
Do you know, if it'd been over a longer period or that era, yeah. I actually don't know. I think we only played 2 or 3 times. But Hearts were a really good side.
People forget how good a player he was as well.
Yeah, box to box, late runs into the box, scored loads of goals.
See how we're talking about the acting things, does it just kind of sum up how the job's changed? So again, people maybe wouldn't know this. That's you been 12 years a manager, 2012 you first started.
Yeah.
Things like that wouldn't have been happening back then in 2012. What else in the job has changed for when you first started?
Social media was just coming out at that time as well. Really, that's around that 2010 sort of period. People were starting to take notice of this new thing, and now it's really important to football clubs. It's the way you get your message across, and it's the way people kind of engage now as well. I think there's been so many changes in football, playing side and managing side, but again I think it's how you evolve as well. I think you're always going to get people that are just going to be, that's their way, that's what they do, this is what happens, and that there's nothing wrong with that. That's just people having different characteristics. I look at the playing side firstly, and I was at the Hibs Hearts game a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know if I'd want to play now because you can't touch each other. You cannot touch each other. It's making defenders look really bad at times, and they're just not allowed to tackle.
Yeah.
And it's got to be perfect, because you saw the handball that Hibs got against them, which was just, everybody in the stadium was looking around going, what's going on? No Hearts player claimed, no Hibs player looked at it, fans were just watching the game. So I don't know if I'd like to play now with the rules, and I think it's a bit mamby-pamby, to be honest with you. That's why I like Championship. We don't have VAR, which is great, because we got on with it. We accept mistakes from referee and linesmen, we accept mistakes from players, we accept mistakes from managers, but it's proper football. It's blood and thunder, and fans are excited. So on that side, those changes are huge.
Yeah.
I think in terms of myself changing, there's been quite a lot. I don't really get involved with referees now. I kind of, unless it's really ridiculous. And there's always one or two that are going to, annoy you and cause you a bit of a problem. But in the main, you learn to sort of mellow a little bit and accept that mistakes happen.
What about other managers still?
Nah.
Never,
Nah, we had a wee thing out there with Dunfermline, but it was nothing. It was just nonsense. I don't really... Again, social media stuff and media, they like to blow everyone up and make things massive, and it wasn't really. It was just two teams who were in a derby game. One of us has scored in the 95th minute. Other teams disappointed. That's about the end of it. Really.
Yeah.
But in terms of other managers, no, I don't get involved now. I used to.
Yeah, I remember you back in the day.
When I was younger, I used to, and I think all young managers probably do it, and they look back and just shake their head and wish we would matured much quicker.
Yeah. What about in the dressing room after a game? Are you more calmer than you were at first, or is it still the same?
Yeah, much more calm. The boys will tell you that. What's the point? Because when you've got a group that I've got at the moment, they know when standards aren't good enough. They know the demands that they've placed on themselves and we've placed on them, and if they fall short, they're more disappointed than anybody. They're more disappointed than me. Because I can always think of ways, how can we make things better? Let's get back in Monday morning. These guys have got to go home and, take the hit as well. So yeah, we lost a game on Saturday there. It was a simple message of probably got what we deserved at the game, which was very little. Didn't play very well. Let's go.
Can you remember a rant in the early days that you look back and think, what was I doing?
I remember having a rant. We were playing Livingston away and we were getting beat 1-0. And the referees had a particularly poor first half. So I went on pitch and said to him, you're having a nightmare, mate. And he went, not as bad as your team. And that's like red rag.
Yeah.
Red rag, so I've lost the head. So I'm in the changing room with our captain, Chris Turner at the time. I won't go into the details. He was due as a favour because he'd been up to no good probably.
Right.
In terms of injuries and stuff. So I could have picked on anybody that day because we were that bad in the first half. But Graham Boozlin was my assistant. I said to
What a
Boozy,
guy.
Yeah, Boozy, great guy.
Great guy.
I said to Boozy, I'm going to go for CT. I says, but you need to be ready because CT was
A big boy.
big, hardy guy, and I'm not.
You need to be ready, that's brilliant.
And I said, okay, he's like, okay, Gaffer, okay. And then I went in and say this is the physio's bench. CT was there, but I made sure I was on this side. It gave me an extra few seconds just in case. Not that it would have. And I've went through him really badly. Calling him lazy, fat, all this usual.
Right.
And I said, you're not coming off the pitch. I don't care how tired you are. You're going to, and we won the game 2-1, believe it or not. And out of all the things I said to him, he came to see me on the Tuesday night. And he went, Gaffer, do you really think I'm fat?
That's the one that always gets players.
And I went, aye, I do actually. But you're a great player. So it just shows you. Footballers like everyone else.
What about, see on that, like in terms of players coming to see you now, does that happen a lot less than it did when you first started? I always think the boys now are less inclined to come and ask the manager.
Yeah, I think it probably is. I think again, once they understand what I'm trying to do, it makes life easier. I try and get it in quite early to whoever I'm working with. That look, if you look at our team this season, for example, loads of guys have been left out. It's not because they're not good players.
Yeah.
It's not because they had a particularly bad run of form. It's because today I just felt like doing this, and there's been a lot of occasions this season, and I'm not kidding. And again, there'll be loads of people looking at this not agreeing. I don't know my team until Saturday morning.
Really?
Yeah, because we've got so many good players. I can play Dylan Easton anywhere, I can play Sam Stanton anywhere. We've just added Kyle Turner to a really good group. Vonnie, Jack Hamilton, Jamie Gullen, Aidan Conley, Sean Byrne, Scotty Brown. Like you can't play them all.
Yeah.
You just sometimes have to wait till it comes to you and get a feel. And sometimes you're right, and sometimes you're wrong.
So do you shape up on a Friday?
Yeah, we do. We do.
And would you change that if you got a different feeling on a Saturday morning?
What I normally do is I normally have two teams shaping up, doubling up in every position. And then we'll add layers to it in terms of adding in maybe a back four and back two. We don't do a lot of 10v10 stuff, mainly because last season in particular we had no numbers. We had at times 11, 12 players, so it was nearly impossible to do anything. This year we could, but again, it's just trying to find the right balance. I just try to keep players, I wouldn't say on edge, but keeping them on their toes. And the boys will say again, like, they don't, and I'm not bullshitting anybody, literally I'll say to them, don't know the team yet guys, so this is what we're doing today. Two positions here, two 10s, two on the right, two strikers, and we just try and get them ready for the game, and then by doing that we feel everybody's ready.
Brilliant. Just on your playing career and managers that you played under, Alec McLeish, who gave you your first opportunity at Hibs, how good was he as a young lad?
Yeah, he was brilliant to me, Alec, I have to say. You know, I owe Alec a lot for my career. I went to Hibs the year they got relegated from the Premier League into the First Division at the time, and brought in some amazing players though. You know, Russell came in, and Frank Sosie came in, and Dirk Lehmann came in, Stuart Lovell came in, Gary Smith, Paul Fennick, all these sort of characters.
I put Stuart Lovell in with Russell Latt.
No, I tell you, Archie was a good player, by the way. I'm telling you, honestly, honestly, Archie was underrated. He's finishing and stuff. Really, he was really, really good. Really, I mean, obviously Russell and Frank stole the show.
Yeah.
But he needed other guys around him because Alec recruited so well. But he was hard as nails on you.
Was that on everyone? Alec McLeish was like that. So would like well, in fact, forget that question. Was he hard on you coming through as a kid?
He was hard on me, but he wasn't hard on every youngster, which I kind of liked because I think he was trying to help me develop quicker. And I know it sounds perverse, but maybe liked you and wanted you to succeed. So I was scared of Alec. I'm not gonna. I don't deny that. You know, he's a big man. He would tell you when things weren't right, and when he walked in a room, you could feel his presence. But he was also brilliant. His tactical knowledge of the game, his training was always hard, but really, really good. And Andy Watson was the perfect sort of foil for him, and who was assistant. And then, well, obviously, Hibs won the league that year, and then back in the Premier League. So Alec, you know, again, I owe him so much.
Do you remember your debut? I always ask about the debut. Do you remember what was the circumstances? Was it a couple of days before he pulled you, or was it just finding the day of the game? Do you remember?
It was quite funny. I'd done really well because of the First Division. Hibs won the First Division, and then the Premier League started. There was a big gap back then. There was instead of having like 10, 12 weeks off, there was maybe 4 weeks off, and then there was voluntary training days in Edinburgh. So I didn't go on holiday that year. So I went to every single voluntary session.
Sorry, there was voluntary sessions?
Voluntary sessions, and they were hard. Really.
So the manager would say, it's up to you whether you want to come in?
Yeah, up till a date.
Right.
We're having training. If you want to come in. If you don't, then don't.
Latte was never at one.
No, he was never that. So I went to every one. I went back really, really fit. Really, like I was only 18. And I got to go on the pre-season tour to Denmark, I think it was. Never played a minute, but I was so happy to be there. Then I went back, went through a wee sort of infection thing that knocked me for a month, and I came back and was really poor, really, really poor, to the extent where people are thinking, what's going on? You know, you've been there and then suddenly you're there, and Hibs were going to Trinidad, and I wasn't going. And then I think Pat McGinley and Frank Sosie pulled out 2 days before, so I got pulled in. I was really disappointed not to be going, and then I got pulled in. And then, again, I don't know if this is true, but John Hughes says it is. So we're out, in the second game we're outside, and John Hughes, at half-time, warming up, or whatever, kicking the ball. And Yogi comes out and says, Nid, the gaffer wants you. Yogi, the gaffer didn't want me, right? So I'm sitting there waiting, thinking like, what's going on? Like, when am I going on? And nobody said a word to me. And then somebody's on the bench getting the massage and pulled up, and the gaffer just turned around and went, Nid, go on. So I done that half, done well. Then I played the whole of the next game, and then we went back to Edinburgh, and I started the next league game. That's how quickly it went from not being in the original.
Well, it just shows you.
It just shows you being in the original squad to starting at Tannadice in the Premier League.
At 18?
18, and I joined Hibs from United, so it was quite nice.
Oh, were you Dundee United as a kid?
I was Dundee United as a kid, yeah.
And Hibs signed you from there, or you left Dundee United released?
It was a bit murky. It was back in the Jim McLean days. United wanted me to go up, but I didn't want to go.
Oh, right. So you ended up going to Hibs?
I went to Hibs, yeah.
So was that as a centre-back?
I was probably centre mid at the time.
Right.
I was playing centre mid for Dundee United that when I signed for Hibs, and then I'd been kind of centre back, centre mid in the Hibs youth team. But my debut was left midfield.
Was it left mid?
Against United, yeah. And
do you remember McLeish going through you as a young lad? Any games? Because I'd imagine you'd been quite inconsistent as a young player.
Yeah, I was. Nah, he was all
right. Was he?
He was all right. You know, he was, as I say, he was good to me. The biggest thing I can kind of think about McLeish in terms of really helping me was the Scottish Cup final.
Right.
I'd played maybe 10 games leading up to the final. Stuart Lovell had been injured. Ulrich Larsson had been injured.
Came to Celtic, Ulrich Larsson.
Yeah, came to Celtic. Yeah, really good player as well. And I think 3 days before the game we were training, so he pulled me, and I'm thinking it's the old pull of
No playing.
thanks but no thanks. Yeah, well done, but this is.
Yeah.
He pulled me, and I'll never forget. He said, "Look, I've messed you about all season because I've been playing everywhere." He says, "I'm going to mess you about again," and that's when I'm thinking. He went, "I'm going to play you at right wing back." I've never played there. I didn't care. The minute I heard, "I'm going to play you," that was me. So he told me on the Wednesday. The game was on the Saturday, and I thought the easiest thing in the world for Alec to do that day was play Stuart Lovell.
Yeah.
And he decided to give me the chance against that brilliant Celtic team because we were a
Right.
good side.
Yeah.
Sosie was half fit, done his hammy. Russell, it was when Russell got done for the drink driving
Right.
stuff, so he was not in the squad, which really hurt us.
Yeah, of course.
But we actually done all right in the game. We probably could have been 1-0 up, but then Larson scores a double. Game's over.
Talking about Big Yogi, how was he in the dressing room? We've had him on here loads of times. He's top man. Isn't he?
Yeah, brilliant. I love it. Again, I went from watching Hibs and Terraces going literally, and again overnight going into the working. Or
Who would you go with, your dad, innit?
yeah, my dad, my brother normally, and we had season tickets, and then I was literally at school one day and then down at Easter Road the next day. So I'm kind of in awe and of these guys that
Yeah.
I'm used to watching and seeing them play on a Saturday, and suddenly I'm now cleaning their boots, getting stuff ready, and it was a bit surreal for me, but amazing. Yogi was part of that group, and obviously a huge character, a good player as well, and team club captain at the time.
Did I think Deeks tells it where he got the boot polish of Deeks' full body before his 18th birthday. Would he do similar stuff to yourself?
He didn't do that to me, but I remember my first ever day at Hibs. I was used to train at Heriot Watt, and I'm not kidding. I'm sitting there with my back to this, back to people, and a guy comes over with a massive knife. I mean, a massive knife, puts it right up against my throat, and he starts asking me loads of questions. And it was Yogi. Now imagine that slipped, or somebody pushes him. Do you know what I mean? And I mean a big, massive kitchen.
That's brilliant.
Honestly.
Oh, so good. Mentioned some of the players. I need to ask you about Latipi. What a player! Eh?
Brilliant, unbelievable. Effortless to him as well. It didn't matter if you're playing on grass, indoors, and Sundays train indoors. A good pitch, bad pitch. Russell was Russell. He's just an incredible football player. His vision was amazing.
Would he do things where you genuinely would like?
Yeah, he really would. I think just him. He was 2 or 3 steps ahead of us, which, as sign football is just massive.
Yeah.
It's miles ahead. He didn't know, do you go and get tight to him, or do you go and stand off him? Do you put him on his right? Do you put him on his left? The only thing he probably couldn't do was head the ball, but he didn't need to, because he never put himself in a position where he needed to head the ball. He was so good at bringing the ball down or playing the ball one touch. I mean, you combined Russell and Frank together. I mean, incredible footballers.
Was he laid back off the pitch?
Yeah, very. Yeah, he was more laid back off than he was on.
Yeah.
I think most footballers get that little bug when they go on the pitch. He's still got the bug, but his bug compared to everyone else's was not as high, because he was Caribbean, very laid back.
Like a fag?
Liked a fag, so much liked a drink. But you had to, because that's Russell. You couldn't have Russell
Without all that.
Russell was never going to respond to a straight down the middle hardliner. You have to put up with certain things from players. Just because Russell enjoyed a fag didn't mean he was not a good professional, not a good teammate, not a good guy.
So it's probably good for you that you've worked with somebody like Latipi, Dylan and Easton on a lesser extent, but like you said, there's just some players that you need to treat that wee bit differently, don't you?
Totally. Russell's obviously different culture. Dylan's obviously from here and with us, but people don't understand other people's upbringings. What were they brought up with? What's acceptable to them that's not acceptable to you? What's their drive? What's your drive? So everybody's different, and I think when you certainly with Russell, a guy that played for his country about 100 times, ability-wise, streets ahead of everybody else in the team, maybe apart from Frank. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
What, you're not going to play him?
Yeah.
You're going to have to put up what he wants to do so you can play him.
Did you ever get a night out with him as a young boy?
I will have, yeah. Russell was not a guy who would shun you because you're a young boy. He treated everybody exactly the same. Just polite, courteous to you, try and help you as well, tell you when you were doing really well and all that. I mean, Russell was probably out a lot more than what I even knew because the age difference and stuff like that. But obviously, as I say, he got caught with the whole Dwight York stuff and all that for the cup final, which was a shame.
Yogi tells the best story, but was it at Falkirk and they were doing running and Russell came out after on, Jack Ross shouts, how says you carry the piano and I'll play it.
That's exactly what I was thinking about when I was talking about the runs around the voluntary training sessions. Russell was never, he would do the running,
He just jog it.
He wasn't going to kill himself. You know, he used to say, like you say there, I'll play it. Ball player.
Brilliant.
He was a ball player.
Who was better, him or Susie?
Really hard. I don't know. They both had different attributes. Frank was a much more serious athlete. His range of passing was incredible. His shooting and stuff, but Russell's trickery and vision and smaller spaces was probably just a wee bit higher, but overall, trying to separate them is too
Did you
hard.
play midfield or both? Did you get a chance to centre midfield or both?
Yeah, we kind of played a diamond. So sometimes Frank would play the bottom, I'd play left, Russell would play 10, which was amazing for me because it used to be Frank sometimes gave it to me, sometimes didn't, because he would know, get to Russell as quick as we can, because it made my job so easy. You know, 5-10 yard passes into number 10 and let him go and do it.
What were they good in terms of advice as well, on the pitch? Would they pull you aside, maybe do this better, do that better, or would they just leave you to get on with it?
Yeah, a bit of both. You know, I think Frank more than Russell on that side, or certainly felt like that at times, but very, very calm in his nature, Frank, very humble, very nice. Told you a lot of his experiences of his football career, and very down to earth. You know, used to always never slaughtered young boys. I don't really know, you get a lot of players that do it, but these guys never went overboard. They would give you a kick up the arse and when you needed it, and tell you to get going and be better. But again, their performances set the standards. You know, we had other guys, Craig Brewster mixed with Pat Linen, who they'd like to know if things weren't right. So when you had all that in together, for a young player to go into that sort of squad, as hard as it was in terms of trying to live up to their expectations, amazing players to go in with.
Yeah. And would your dad still come and watch you every week?
Yeah, he did. He used to come pretty much every game, home and away. Same when I went to Rangers, done the same. Certainly home games. And same as a manager, he used to come to games.
Did he? Brilliant, mate. So you're in the team, and then this next group that comes through. How soon did you know about O'Connor, Riordan, Brown, Thompson, Whittaker? Would they get spoken about in terms of like when they were playing youth team? Did you get a chance to see them as first team players?
Not really. You know, back then it was a bit different in terms of young boys were young boys and done all the
jobs,
dirty work, and you'd go in train, you'd go back, and then they'd still be, you know, picking up goal posts and screwing them, getting all the stuff in all together. Didn't see much of them in terms of the games, because there seems to be loads of games now. You play all the time. Back then it was a game a week.
Of course.
Train the rest of the week, and you play the Scottish Youth Cup, and that's your lot. Maybe the Scottish Youth Cup you would go to games.
Yeah.
But then Gaz, I think Gaz used to do my boots actually. He was my.
How was he as a boot boy?
He was all right. He was all right sometimes. But I knew Derek more because he could come in kind of halfway through a season. Nobody really knew who he was. Just this young guy appeared at training. Donald Park was our youth manager. Very slight and rough around the edges, but he could finish. You know, his finishing was incredible. So he was the first one to come. And then Gaz kind of came six to 9 months after that, emerging, and then they kind of formed that partnership. And then after that, your Scott Browns, your Kevin Thompson, Stephen Fletchers were coming through.
See, when Gaz and Dietz first came in, how were they with the older boys? Cheeky, winding you up all the time?
Confident, I think. You know, I used to, a bit further down in our careers, you know, we'd maybe go to Tynecastle, Ibrox, Parkhead, whatever it was, and we used to think we'd beat anybody. Honestly, we weren't trying to be cocky, but just that's where we were.
Yeah.
2021, you think you can beat anybody. So I'd be like, I think we could win the day, you know, 2-0, 2-1. And you have Gaz sitting beside you going, I'll probably score a hat-trick today. And you have Deek going, I'll probably score a hat-trick.
So we're winning 6-0.
I'm like, we're 6-0 up at Ibrox. You know, what planet are we on? Like, you're on the bus after the game, 4-0 down the road. You know, you get real guys, eh? You know,
That's brilliant.
But that's the mentality. We had no fear. We had no fear, and we lost the game. We didn't dwell on it. We didn't care.
What about then the ones that come after it? Then your Browns, Thompson, and Whittaker. Like, could you tell straight away that we're going to be top players?
I think. Yeah, Whitty was Mr. Reliable, steady Eddie. You could see him coming through. Scott Brown coming through. Fletcher.
Fletcher's brilliant, man.
Yeah, Fletcher was really intelligent for a young player. His movement and the way he found himself in space in the box. And Bruni was all action. Started out on the right wing. Obviously, over his span of his career, converted into a centre midfielder and a bit more calmer in terms of his running about. Tomo, brilliant on the ball. You know, technically really, really good. And we had Big Gaz is probably the one for me. And I hate saying it, that for me he had everything. You know, he had power, he had pace, he had strength, he could score goals, he could head the ball. But Deeks, the best finisher I've probably ever seen.
Yeah. Left and right.
Yeah, incredible. Could hit the ball from 30 yards, hit the ball from 4 yards, it didn't matter.
So see, because you were a wee bit older than him, did you kind of take it upon yourself to then be the older guy to them and give them advice here and there, or did they not really take advice on the sort of boys?
Nah, they wouldn't really take it. They would listen to you, but they would probably in one ear out the other, which is fair enough, and they were riding the crest of a wave at the time as well. But yeah, I was probably, that 2 or 3, 4 years older than some of them. And I missed quite a lot of their development because I obviously moved on from Hibs and they were still there, and then they eventually moved. But you could tell from a young age that they were
going to be top
players.
I need to ask you about Bobby Williamson. Deeks tells a great story. Bobby always shouts him, he's lying in the bath, he's banging out as Deeks would say, and Gaz O'Connor talks about him eating toast and that, but everyone speaks so highly of Bobby Williamson. Have you got similar memories?
Yeah, again, brilliant. I was so lucky especially my early part career at Hibs, because when Alex left, it was a blow for everybody. Frank came in and, again, a blow because we liked him. We liked Frank, wanted to do well for him, didn't work out. And Bobby come in, who was doing really well at Kilmarnock, and nobody really knew what to expect, but he brought Jim Clark in and Jerry McCabe. Again, two brilliant guys, and Bobby was great to me. I was playing well. I think his first game I scored 2 actually, which kind of helped. It's meant your kind of relationship, shall we say, with a new manager. And again, what I stood about Bobby is Bobby was man in management. You didn't realise what he was doing at the time, but his man management was really, really good. He was a normal guy who just kept things pretty cool. And I remember, this is how happy I was, 21 years old. I remember my place was there and Bobby's office was there, so it looked out. And it was maybe a Monday or Tuesday, I don't know. And he pulls me in the office, he said, "We've had a bid from Cardiff City, £1 million or something." And he went, "You didn't want to go, do you?" And I just went, "No." I walked out.
That was it done?
End of conversation, that was ended. He went, no, he said to me, it was Monday, he said, "I'll see you Thursday down the road." I was like, all right.
Wow, something like that.
Yeah, again, and he was right though, I didn't want to go, because I was loving it, and loved the environment. But nowadays, that would have, you look back and think, oh, maybe I should have had a look at that. But Bobby, as a manager, I liked him. His messages were very clear, very simple, and that's what you want.
Somebody else says they were trying to train. He was standing at the side of a burger van getting bacon rolls before training.
But we all were.
That was just a done thing back in the day, wasn't it?
There was a roll van outside the stadium, and Ninja boys, the minute us boys went training, Ninja boys were nipping around to get their breakfast. I remember being in we did this big nutritional talk at Hibs, I don't know, one day, maybe Monday. Me, Derek and Gaz and someone else, I can't remember, it might have been Bruni or someone. There's a greasy spoon at Easter Road, we're sitting, Bobby's driving past. And he remembers, he just put his window and went, "Keep doing what you're doing." And that's it, away. Why change it? That's where we were at that time.
Yeah, brilliant. The game changer for me, Tony Mowbray arriving.
Yeah, it was a big change. It was at the time quite a surprise appointment from Hibs. Nobody knew. A brilliant appointment. Tony came in and opened our eyes a little bit, shall we say, and made us kind of think about how serious do we want to go and where do we want to be in 2, 3, 4, 5 years time, and inherited a really, really young team with loads of talent. And that having talent's one thing, but try to pull it out of guys and push guys on is a different thing. And Tony and Mark Venus, their training and stuff was really, really good. Just small tweaks here and there. And had us playing really good football, and he brought in some good young players, Dean Shields, Sam Morrow of the world as well. They came in and gelled into our group really, really well. Tony, again, very good at man managing. You have to read your players a little bit. Again, how do you control, or not control because that's not the right word, but how do you get the best out of Derek Riordan, Gary O'Connor, Scott Browns, Kevin Thompsons? What kind of other players do you surround them with?
So how did he? Was it a lot of one-to-one chats like Gaz and Deeks?
Yeah, probably a lot more than I know.
You've seen, yeah.
And we'll ever know, because they were both flying high, scoring loads of goals, and we needed them to play. Again, weekends were for enjoyment. If we won a game, I'm sure Tony knew that. I'm pretty sure he will have. If he didn't, then I'd be very surprised.
Yeah.
Did he ever pull us up for it? Not really. He just kind of told us to be responsible and remember there's the other side of it. You try to stay in the team, make a career for yourself. How do we get you to the highest level as we possibly can?
What was your favourite hunts? And Edinburgh.
Oh.
What was it? What was the places?
In Edinburgh, God, there was loads back then. There's not as many now.
Shanghai.
Shanghai. No, that wasn't. See, that didn't exist.
No, that didn't
Nah,
exist.
never existed. There was a place, Eros and Elite. We were always there. There was another one. I can't remember if it was Century 2000 or it changed names, but at that point, Three Sisters as well.
Right, Three Sisters.
Yeah, that was a wee bit old school.
Is there anything better than that? Playing for your boyhood team every weekend in Edinburgh.
Nah, there's not. There's
See,
not.
when you go high and you get older and you get more worries and the pressure comes to, doesn't it?
That's what I say to people. 21, when the Cardiff stuff, all this, I had enough money at the time in my pocket to do the things at 21 that you want to do. You're playing for your local team that you supported. You're hanging about with guys inside your work that you really like, and you're hanging about with your mates outside the work. At 21 years old, it doesn't really get that much better.
Would your dad, would he give you tips after games or say how you played, or would he just leave you to it?
I remember my dad, I'd been playing for Hibs one day, and I went to see him in the pub. I used to drive past the pub on the way home, so I'd nip in to see him. I remember my dad saying something to me about, "Oh, you're not playing like you used to play when you were at the high school, like, running about and..."
Such a dad thing.
Dad, you say. And I remember saying to him, I said, "Dad," and I said, you don't know, you're not my fucking gaffer." And to be fair, since that day, that was it.
That's brilliant. My mum used to say the exact same. You didn't play like you used to play when you were at Celtic Boys Club. Fucking hard on it, is it? So you talked about the Cardiff thing. Was there any other clubs that came in for you before you went to Rangers? So there was a lot of interest, I remember.
There was a lot of interest. I think the interest kind of came after, or too late down the line.
Right.
I think Middlesbrough were fairly interested. I think there was talk of Celtic making a last minute sort of stuff, but I was kind of really always pulled towards Rangers because of Alec more than anything else. When I grew up, Rangers Celtic, I wasn't bothered. I was Hibs and Hearts. But Alec being there, Andy Watson being there, that was huge for me because I was going to a manager that I'd worked with before. I was going to a manager that had already signed me for Hibs, and I was going to a manager where I knew what he expected of me. Yeah.
Just lastly on Hibs, because one player I wanted to ask you about, you mentioned was your assistant manager, Boozlin.
Yeah.
How good was he?
Brilliant. Really, again, quality player. I think he came in on trial, actually. Firstly under Tony, and we knew straight away, like, oh God, this guy was bringing the ball down and playing it. Again, he would just
around
the corner. He just vision. It's all about the vision for these guys. Like, they're just that step ahead of you. They can kind of feel you pressing them without looking and just knock it round you and take you out the game. But a brilliant teammate as well. Brilliant guy, amazing guy. So much fun. Just a good teammate as well, and on the park and off the park. Again, he fitted into the mould of our group as well.
We'll ask everyone in that Hibs team, and I'm sure you have been asked, do you think they could have challenged if they all stayed together?
I'm asked that quite a lot. In terms of where we got to as players, yeah, I think we could have if we'd stayed together, but would we have progressed as quick or got to levels we'd had if we'd stayed together? Because remember, all of us kind of went. Gaz goes to Russia, Derek goes to Celtic, I go to Rangers, Tom goes to Rangers. Without disrespect, we're playing with high quality players every week in every training session, which obviously kicked us on as well.
Better.
So could we have kicked each other on to the same levels? I'm not convinced we could have. But in terms of where we got to, really good side. And if you add in other guys like Ivan Sproul, who came over as well,
rapid,
electric pace, like as we mentioned, Boozy, Gary Caldwell. As well, really, really good players. David Murphy's of the world coming in.
Good.
So we'll never know, but yeah, in terms of our end game, our end careers, yeah, I think we could have.
And then just last bit on Hibs, was there a striker that you played against? Cause you played centre half for a good bit. Yeah. Was there a striker you came up against, a young kid that just absolutely terrorised you?
I don't know if I got terrorised, but it was hard. I used to like playing against Larsson, to be honest,
right?
Because he'd done things correctly, he'd done things properly. In terms of, he'd make the front post run when he should, he'd make the pass run. You just had to try and stop him. Now that was different, trying to stop the guy, because obviously he scored millions of goals and, Celtic hero. It was guys like Jason Scotland, Colin Samuels.
So it was a bit unpredictable.
Don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
You do not know what they're doing. And if they don't know what they're doing, how are you supposed to know what they're going to know? They get you, they could burn you 1v1.
Yeah.
They could tie you in knots 1v1. Also, other games, they couldn't trap a bag of cement.
But
what one were you getting? So they used to always scare me a hell of a lot more than your Larsons and Hartsons. Not that they were easy to play against, far from it. But those two, I used to always think, if Ricardo Fuller was another Hearts, you don't know what they're going to do.
He's a monster, wasn't
Yeah, you don't know what they're going to do. You just don't know what they're doing.
So did you have an agent at this time?
Yeah, I did.
How at what age do you get an agent? And this obviously your first agent.
Yeah, still my agent now, Jim.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so
Jim MacArthur.
Jim MacArthur.
Yeah, he did all the Edinburgh boys, didn't he?
Yeah, he done a lot of Edinburgh work, Hibs and Hearts. So yeah, Jim done all my stuff really, all the Hibs to Rangers, Rangers to Norwich, and then back up the road.
So when do you first hear about that Rangers are interested?
I bumped into Andy Watson a couple of times, and he never said anything, by the way. But when I look back, he was maybe hinting at me. Yeah. Because we got on well, and there was a lot of talk when Alec went to Rangers that they were going to come and sign me basically. But after speaking to Alec years later, he said, "Look, we were," he says, "but we just felt again develop at Hibs first, and then be ready."
Yeah.
So the first interest I knew was probably, and it was only interest, I remember I'd been up at Tannadice for a Hibs United quarter-final League Cup, and we got beat 3-2, I think, or 4-2. And we played really well. We played really well with a good team. And I think that was the first time I got frustrated, and I phoned Jim and I said, "Jim, I'm never going to win nothing here. You know, we're just, it's grinding me now." But it was a moment. It was a moment in like your career. It was just a bad night. And then Jim says, "Well, I need to meet you anyway. I'll meet you next week." In my head, I've got no clue. And you're probably talking to January, February of whenever that year I went to Rangers. Yeah. And then he said, "Look, got an offer for Rangers for you." And it was the last thing I expected. I literally had no idea. I was obviously excited. I knew what Rangers were offering to me, not just financially, but football terms, and back with Alex McLeish again. Hibs didn't have much of a chance because Hibs at that time were struggling financially. Yeah. They were doing their best as well though to try and keep me. But I always, like, whatever I decided, I always said to Hibs and myself, I give them everything until I play for somebody else. Yeah. That was the season Rangers won the league on the last day, the helicopter Sunday. Right. And then Tony Mowbray said to me a couple weeks before, "Look, we're not going to play you. It's not right. It's not fair. Put you in that position." But the way things transpired, we had to not get beat by a certain amount of goals, or Hearts would get in Europe. I think it was Hearts. Right. And then I remember obviously playing. I remember I went to a tackle, and I remember Barry Ferguson turning around to me, he's screaming, "What are you doing?" He's like, "You're one of us now." Like that. And I'm thinking, "No, I'm not. I'm absolutely not. This is a game of football we're playing here. Yeah. We're in a position where I want to get this club into Europe." And then Rangers went 1-0 up quite late on, and Scott McDonald obviously scores 2. That's right. At the game, and our game, the last 10-15 minutes, it was like walking football. Yeah. Because we don't want to go forward because Rangers score another couple of goals, we're out Europe. They don't want to go forward because if we score, then it's the league goes to Parkhead. Yeah. So it was a totally weird situation. But you didn't know you were going to Rangers at that time? I was not 100%. I was pretty sure because at that time myself and Hibs had got to the end of the line. There just wasn't anything they could have done. Yeah. And I was hoping there could have been, but when the gulf of everything was just going to be too big. You were the Hibs captain at the time? Yeah. How was that to get the Hibs captaincy? Obviously, as you say, you grew up on the terraces. Yeah, amazing. You know, again, a bit of fortune in your career. I get it by default. We're playing Hearts at Tynecastle. And John O'Neill's the captain, and he gets full. Yeah, good player, really good player. Midfielder. Yeah, brilliant player. He was tough to play against, but brilliant to play with. Yeah. And he got into the sort of border in the sides, like pushed into it, and he dislocated his shoulder. Right. And I don't know why. I went over to see if he was all right, and he obviously wasn't. And then he took the armband off, gave it, and I just put it on. That was it. I was kind of just subconscious. And once again, I hadn't thought about any of it. Throughout the week, it hadn't even entered my head, and then I was going out for the warm-up the next week, and Bobby Olsen just came up to me, he went, "You're captain." That was it. And that was it. That was me. Amazing feeling. Crazy, yeah. I'm not going to deny it. Very proud moment for me. Every game, not just that game, but every game, I used to always feel, you're going out, you're leading guys out here, you're the leader of this team, you're representing the supporters, you've got to give them what they want as well. So I was very fortunate. Incredible. And also your dad must have been buzzing with that as well. Yeah, he would have been. We didn't really get into that too much, but he would be praised for his support all his life. So yeah, first and foremost, you want to play for the club you support. And then if you get to be captain, then that's added bonus.
Amazing. Right, talk to me about Rangers. First day, you didn't seem to me like be a nervous guy. I think you maybe played over 100 games for Hibs, but how is that first day going into training at a club like Rangers?
Yeah, it is nerve-wracking. There's no question about it. I'd only been through to the West once prior to meeting up for pre-season in terms to sign the contract.
Where'd you go for that?
Ibrox.
Ibrox, right. How was that?
Yeah, I'd only been a couple of times as a player up to that stage. It's quite daunting because it's massive. You know, you're in that club deck in the main stand and you're looking, and it's empty. You're looking around going, oh, I'm going to be playing here every second week and it's going to be full and it's going to be hard. And that's just one aspect. That's not even going to Murray Park was a new experience because Hibs didn't have a training centre at that point, so I was used to turning up to the stadium and just finding out where we're training. And probably, I knew a few of the lads. I knew Alan McGregor. I played with Alan when we were boys club and played against him throughout. I knew kind of Bob Malcolm a little bit, Mo Ross, Barry Ferguson from the Scotland sides, but those guys I didn't know. But the first day that I went there, we actually flew out to Toronto for our pre-season for 10 days, so it gave me a really good amount of time to get to know the guys, and an amazing trip as well. And I think this probably helped me with the guys. Didn't help me with the manager. It's like you get one night out on the trip. So we'll go out. The gaffer's like, right, you can go out, but be back for one. And I'm scared of Alec. I'm honestly like
terrified.
I am honestly. So it's getting to maybe 12:15, and I'm going, right, we better make a move, lads. And they're all like, nah. Big Tom was like, you can't leave, mate. It's your first trip. Like, boys, I think you're a right idiot. And I'm going, no, Tomo, we've got to go, the gaffer. I'm caught like this. And so we walk in about 1:30, nothing mental, like 1:45 or something, and the gaffer's sitting waiting. And I'm going, oh no. And he's went through us. And he's finding us all the week's wages. And he was going down us all like that. And he came to me, mate, you've only been here 5 minutes, you little. And I'm just like,
not even in the tone you've been down a week's wages.
I honestly couldn't even sleep. I was
that worried?
I was worried. And then that was it.
Then it was forgotten about.
That was it. You get back on.
What I always wonder as well. See, like, what about even like the terms of what car you drove and that? Did you change it before you went into Rangers? Were you worried about like what that?
Nah.
Is it that much that goes through your head?
Sounding like an absolute stereotypical football. Rangers supplied you.
Oh, car, right.
They had a big sponsor. Celtic were the same, I think.
Yeah.
A big sponsorship, so we used that. Most of the boys actually used that. So it was actually that was all right. I'm not a big car guy, to be honest.
Yeah. What about first day in terms of the standard?
Yeah, brilliant. Standard was really, really high. I was fortunate. I started off really well in terms of training.
Did you, right?
Yeah, my head was on it. I was really focused on that. And I kind of knew that these guys are going to be judging me from the minute I walk in the door. You can play against people and have opinions, but when you're actually with them all the time training, your opinion it changes, and it can change quickly both ways. So I had to make sure I was getting up to their levels, and I felt the first 8 to 10 weeks I certainly done that, but training was tough. It was a really, really hard pre-season over in Canada. It was hard, grueling, the heat as well, and the quality.
Who stood out?
Probably the two players that there was loads of good players that I knew they were good players, but the two I didn't realise were as good as they were was Chris Burke and Dado Purzo. They were, because again, playing against them, I wasn't sure. I felt sometimes we got the better of him, but when you saw him training every day, his touch, he's big and he holds the ball up. And Burke was another one. I didn't mind playing against Burke, but when I played with him, I appreciated it so much more. Right. He was brilliant. He was such a better footballer than I realised.
Wow, there you go. People, how you wouldn't think, I need to ask again about Fergie. How did you get the Fergie grill? Or did you
would have. I got on fine with Fergie. Again, an unbelievable player, but I think we all got it at least once or twice a week because that was Fergie. But a good teammate.
People say that.
Yeah, he would put his.
Suppose you'd maybe been used to it because you'd been with Scotland as well. So you know what to expect.
And I think I go back to me being fortunate. I didn't grow up in a environment where demands weren't placed on you. I grew up with Alex shouting at you. I grew up with Mitchell Paatelainen, Craig Brewster demanding every single training session from you. So Gary Smith was another one. I wouldn't want to not put the I wouldn't say efforting, but get up to the level that he expects, because they let you know about it. So I was the same at Rangers.
Again, another big jump. You go into the Champions League that season, face Inter Milan.
Yeah, brilliant. Again, that's what I'm talking about. Hibs couldn't bridge that gap, and not just financially, or you're talking football now. You know, what Champions League is what you, as a player or a youngster, you watch it, you want to play in it. Amazing. We were, going to San Siro, we were going over to Porto, Bratislava, Villarreal, all these places that I wasn't going to get the opportunity to do that, and that was again a massive pull for me, and a brilliant experience.
What is it like walking out the Champions League music and standing in the?
Yeah, it was quite funny. Like we played in Milan at San Siro. There was no fans there because I think the game before the referee being hit with a coin,
right?
So the fans were banned,
right?
But walking out at Ibrox on the flip side against Inter Milan, amazing. I remember it really clearly. Same as the Porto game, because it was my first proper Champions League game. The atmosphere and midweek game at Ibrox in Europe is different from a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah. Who were you up against? Inter Milan.
I can't remember. Obviously, Figo was out at the time. Adriano was a striker.
Wow, Adriano was
I think he scored at Ibrox. They had Materazzi, I think, was there as well. They had so many. Camareso.
Koba, would he have been there?
No, he wasn't there.
No.
Then you had other guys like Riquelme, Forlan at Villarreal, right good players. Had a winger. Porto had, I can't remember the winger, he went to Chelsea in the end. Good player as well. Gave us a torrid time over there.
Did you feel alright at that level? Did you feel like you could?
Yeah, I think we were domestically quite poor. Well, we were poor that season. The European wise we were quite good, but I think it's because we were probably better against these teams without the ball.
Right. And
taking our chances with good players. But when we had to go and try and unlock teams, we found it really, really difficult. But in Europe we held our own. We were really lucky to get knocked out.
Last 16 you get knocked out over like that. Big Boyd has a chance.
Yeah, I was going to say Big Boyd had a header in the last 2 or 3 minutes. Boyd scores 9 times out of 10, and that was the year Villarreal got really close to the final.
Yeah, so as you say, Riquelme, Forlan, they were a proper team then.
Yeah, centre midfield as well.
Oh, what a player, the Brazilian.
Yeah, they were good players. The Villarreal game, the atmosphere over there was just amazing. It's not a massive stadium, but it's like, very vertical up and down and on top of you. And the Rangers fans that night as well, it was ridiculous. So although we lost and we got knocked out, the experience of playing against these players, it's something you don't forget. You'll never forget.
Yeah. What position would you be playing in these games?
I played against Porto and Inter Milan centre mid. And then I remember being left back over in Villarreal.
Right. Would that be similar in the SPL? Would it be centre mid or left back?
Yeah, pretty much. Or centre half.
Right.
Alec kind of employed me as a stopper in the midfield in terms of man marker. So I'd normally have a player to man mark, which I quite enjoyed.
Right.
I didn't have to take the ball too much.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
So trying to stop someone is easier than trying to take somebody on.
Yeah, so was that the struggle in terms of in the league? Would you then be asked to go and do things that you maybe weren't comfortable doing?
Yeah, I think we have much more of the ball. You're playing against teams that sitting in maybe raise their game a little bit, and people will say teams don't do it. They do. I've done it against Rangers and Celtic in big games. That's what happens. We didn't have we were a decent side, but we didn't have anybody that could really go and unlock defences.
Yeah.
We didn't have a Latapi or a Sosi. We had Fergie, obviously, but he kept the ball moving and kept us going. We had plenty of pace with Lovenkrands on the sides and Thomas Buffel, but we didn't have that right 2 or 3 players that are going to
take somebody at the game,
really dig you out when the chips are down.
Yeah. And that led to obviously a 3rd place finish between Celtic and Hearts. That is a disaster at a club like Rangers, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous.
See, when that's like that, how hard is it to play at Ibrox?
It's really hard. It's really hard. We started the season off brilliantly. We beat Celtic at Ibrox 3-1, and we toyed with them, if I'm being honest. It was a game Neil Lennon got a couple of red cards, 3 or 4, something like that. 3 it was Lenny. And we're off to a flyer, we're absolutely flying, and then we hit a wall, we went down, and Alec was finding it difficult, players were finding it difficult. We were drawn against Falkirk at Ibrox, and I remember that one more than anything. We drew against Falkirk at Ibrox, the place went toxic. The boys, going from the stand to their cars, for example, we needed a big security line, because the fans weren't happy, and as you said, at Rangers being where we were, simply not good enough. We knew that, but our confidence was gone, or we were shocked to bits.
And do you feel that going into games? Do you actually feel like I've got no confidence?
I think if everybody's honest, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I think it's human nature. I think when it's not just one or two of us that are feeling it, it's probably 15, 16, 17 guys out of a 20-man group. It's going to affect you.
How sad were you when McLeish lost his job?
Yeah, really sad. But I think Alec could probably, I'll never know, because we felt we'd let him down. I certainly felt we'd let him down. But I also felt that maybe Alec, it was what Alec needed as well, because it looked like he was tired.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he was just really frustrated. But my overall feeling was, yeah, very sorry. We'd let the club down as well. We'd let the chairman down. You know, that's how much Rangers ingrained in you at times, that you're such a huge institution and football club that you have to do well.
How do you find out Alex McLeish does he come and tell you himself, or is it just in that you find it from the press? Or
I can't remember how it happened or how we found out. I think Alec might have phoned us all maybe half an hour before it was going to be announced.
Do you, if you were to look back at your Rangers career, do you wish you just had one position that you played in? And what would that have been?
Probably, I found centre half the easiest position.
Yeah.
Because everything's there, and you can talk to people and pull them in, move them around about you. Left back, I didn't enjoy full back especially when I was getting older, because you're isolated. And if you're 1v1 against a winger who's quicker than you,
yeah, you're fucked.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah.
And you can also be a left back or a right back, whatever, and the winger can run you 10 times. You can stop them 8, but you can put 2 balls in and they score. Everybody thinks you've had a nightmare.
Yeah.
And you've actually not, but you're in such a position where if nobody was willing to come round and help you, and you're playing behind Derek as well, rather than by the way, who's definitely not going to help you, right? What are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
If you're up against someone like Lovenkrands, Sproul of the world, and they're quicker than you,
yeah, you're roasted.
You're struggling.
Obviously, sad McLeish leaves, but do you remember the time when Rangers first announced kind of interest in Paul Le Guen? It was massive. He done brilliantly at Lyon, didn't he?
Yeah.
So were you excited as a player to think I'm going to go come and work with a top coach?
Yeah, it was. Obviously, Paul came with a brilliant, like you say, CV and pedigree, and it was a really bold move by David Murray as well. So when Paul came in, it was obviously, first and foremost, you want to know, because we'd had a poor season, there was always going to be changes in the playing staff. Did they want you? And that was the most nerve-wracking thing. I wonder what's going to happen, what we're going to do. So you're back at pre-season, and there was new ideas. It's been well documented over the years. But I liked it. I liked him. I really liked him. I thought he was, again, a total gentleman to you. Spoke to you like an adult and very calm and very focused. In hindsight, was he the right man for Rangers at that time? Probably not. But I understand why David Murray wanted to try and change things, and maybe in time it would have worked out slightly different.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed my time under Paul. I really did.
So did he make it clear was there individual meetings to tell you if you were in his plans or if you weren't in his plans?
Not really. I mean, I was speaking to somebody the other day about it, just talking about our footballing careers, and I had a chance to go on loan to Germany, and Paul had pulled me just casually at training, saying it went along the lines of this, we have had an offer for your loan to Germany. I want you to stay here. Now, when somebody tells you they want you to stay at Rangers and there's new manager, that's all I cared about. I was like, okay, that's it, end of conversation. So that's how I knew I was in his plans. And then obviously I took a wee virus with an infection, and then I was out for 4 or 5 months. So I never really got a chance to repay him either, which was really frustrating.
See how you said you liked something? What was it that you liked that you'd seen? Obviously you said you were injured, but what was it, training?
Yeah, training.
Diet?
It was kind of math type of training. The dietary stuff never really bothered me. I think I was quite laid back in terms, for instance, if we were playing Hibs at Easter Road, now I lived in Edinburgh, I'd have to travel to Murray Park to get the bus, to go all the way through Edinburgh, to go all the way back to Edinburgh.
Right.
Now some guys will go mental, they'll kick up a fuss. It didn't bother me. That was my job. What's an extra couple of hours onto your day? And yeah, the easiest thing is to meet you there, but that's not what the manager wanted. What the manager wanted was this, so I have to comply with what he wished. And I just felt that was the rules. That was his way of doing it, so I had to do what he said. But I felt he was so calm, and it was probably the way that I wanted a manager to be.
Yeah, because if you look at like top managers now, they're not ranting ravers, are they? after games, they will be quite calm, won't they?
Yeah, I would imagine so. You're going to have moments.
Do you think he was maybe just a wee bit before his time in terms of Scottish football?
Yeah, probably. He probably didn't realise how the cultural differences as well of players and of supporters and of football clubs, because you don't go from being a very successful manager at Lyon in a really hard league to being a failure in Scotland. It doesn't happen. It might just take a longer path and a longer time to get to where everybody thinks you should be. And people forget he was taking over a club that was in a bit of problem.
Yeah, because I think some of the criticism was that he was got beat Inverness and he wouldn't have come in and rant and rave. But if that's not your way, then why would you do
Well, that's it. I remember it. We got beat 1-0 or 2-1 and particularly poor run we were on. And he came in and just said, let's get changed. We'll see you whatever, Monday. He'd done that every week though, win, lose or draw. So he wasn't going to change just because it was Inverness. He always had his thought process and the system that he wanted to imply football-wise, but also mentality-wise, and he wasn't going to budge from it.
And in Scotland, that's perceived as a lack of passion, where it's not really, is it?
Not at all, because I think everybody will say, we've all been there, in terms of being really, really angry after a game of football, and went on the Monday and been completely different, looked at it back or thought about things differently, and said, maybe I shouldn't have said that, maybe I should have done this. So the sensible approach is to say very little, think about it, and then if you're still feeling the same 2 or 3 days later, then that's the time to address it.
Because it's funny, Lewis Ferguson's on obviously in Bologna's now, and Derek is on the podcast with us. He says Motton never speaks after the game. Never.
Yeah,
that doesn't say
it doesn't surprise me. It really 15 years ago it would have surprised me, but now it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. And see, well, like when was it the relationship with the cat with Barry Ferguson? Like that was kind of the catalyst for it at the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we can't hide behind that. Or I was there. Yeah, did they get on? No, they didn't get on. That's the way football goes. Barry was a big figure, an influential figure at Rangers at the time. When results aren't going well, it's normally the manager that falls by the sword, not the 20 guys that have contributed heavily to those results. So what went on discussion-wise with David Murray and Paul and Barry, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll never know. But there certainly was a fraction of relationship.
Would you presume that there was other people in the dressing room that liked his methods as well? Or did you think everyone in the end had turned against him?
No. Not everybody turned against him. There was guys in the dressing room who were very receptive to it. Scottish guys as well.
Yeah.
Because we still had a core group, and there was guys that weren't. But that's probably every manager is going to get that. It was just a tough time to be at Rangers. With the change of the manager, the results from the previous season, Celtic were progressing, and also all the stuff that happened 5-6 years later, that didn't happen. That must have been happening
in the background.
In the background, we were there. We didn't know. We didn't realise any of that. But the club was a difficult time at that moment for everyone.
I need to ask you, how did you find the Celtic Rangers the Celtic games?
Yeah, I get asked a lot. I do. Look, I love playing at Ibrox. I loved it because for me it's the best stadium in Scotland. You love going to your rival stadium. Doesn't matter who it is. There's a huge difference from the Edinburgh Derby to the Glasgow Derby. Now, I'll always be Edinburgh Derby. I love the Edinburgh Derby. I love playing in it. Celtic, to me, I wouldn't say just another game, because I wouldn't treat it with that disrespect. It was a huge, huge derby. The build-up to the game was completely different for a domestic game that I'd ever experienced or ever will experience.
Yeah.
Rangers and Celtic fans just want to beat each other. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Do you have a standout game that you played in?
Yeah, I was quite the derbies were probably 50-50. We won a few, lost a few, drew a couple, probably. I played in the game. I was really proud that I won a game at Ibrox, Old Firm, and I won a game at Parkhead, Old Firm. The game at Ibrox, we deserved to win. We, as I say, we toyed with them that day, and that's not disrespecting Celtic, because they were a good side, but we were good that day. The game at Parkhead, we probably nicked a little bit with big Hugo Ekiog, God rest him.
Yeah.
Overhead kick. We weren't a good team, but we dug in and we fought like mad for that result.
Brilliant. Your first game back for injury was 1-0 victory at Motherwell, backdrop of Ferguson being dropped. You remember that day? Yeah,
it's Paul's last game. So yeah, I do, as I said, been out for a bit of time. Again, very simple from Paul Le Guen. Stasa Papic was playing left back up until that point. He just pulled us both together like this and went, "You're not playing, I want you to play." End of conversation. Because his English wasn't brilliant. And that was it. Out we went. And
straight to the point.
Yeah, straight to the point. As I say, his English wasn't perfect or brilliant, but he got his point across pretty quickly and pretty clearly. So we won. I think we won 1-0.
Yeah,
1-0. Right. Penalty maybe. So yeah, but that was Paul's last game.
So were you surprised that it was his last game, seeing that you won one?
Yeah, I was, because I think he was very, for me as a player, I thought it was very clear that this guy was stamping his authority down. He wanted to do what he wanted to do. But now I look back and think maybe he wanted out, because you don't drop your best player normally. You know, Barry was our best player by a country mile in terms of dictating a football game and demanding of other people. Or was the relationship so bad that they didn't want to be near each other? I don't know.
Did he just tell Barry on the day of the game he wasn't playing?
No, I think it was the day before. I think he made Gavin Ray captain.
That's right, because Gavin Ray said that here, that's right.
Were quite close at the time, and I think Gav was surprised. We were obviously one man's disappointment, another man's happiness in football normally. You know, so it was, as I say, it was just a tough time to be there, because, you know, put Gavin in a position as well.
Yeah. And then Le Guin goes, and the two Rangers legends, Walter Smith and Ali McCoist, came in. How happy were the boys to see they two?
Yeah, again, a few of the boys knew them from Scotland. You know, obviously Ali was assistant to Walter.
Were you in the Scotland setup at the start? You were in?
Yeah, I was in and out a wee bit. I was in and out, sort of. I'd been, you know, a couple of squads, and then, you know, went to Japan with Walter and all this stuff in Coisty, and then they came in and we just picked up immediately. We still weren't brilliant, but Walter, again, another guy that's left us far too soon, was an incredible manager again, in terms of getting the best out of players, demanding standards. That was the biggest thing at Rangers, the standards of Glasgow Rangers. This is where we should be. This is what we need to be, where we always must be. And Walter petified that more than anything. Kenny McDowell came in.
Good. Kenny was my reserve manager.
Yeah, Kenny was brilliant. I didn't know Kenny at all. His training and stuff was brilliant. Really, really good.
Yeah.
So him and Ali took training most, and Walter would just stand watching and growling at you. And when Walter looked at you, or actually said, you told him pretty quickly. Again, a bit like Hart McLeish had that sort of fear factor, but deep underneath it all, if you give him everything, he'll give you everything.
Yeah. Did you ever get a Walter Smith blast?
I don't think I got a blast, to be honest. I don't remember getting one. I've seen a few. I think Walter would give it to the guys that kind of needed it in terms of getting a bit too cocky or wanted to chat back. I just try to do my job, and fairness to Ali and Walter, I get my first job at Dumbarton through Ali McCoist.
Right, how's that?
Well, a long story. He probably doesn't know I know, and I didn't know until not that long ago that he'd helped. He used to drink with the chief executive at Dumbarton. So he told me, and Ali, I've only maybe once or twice. He's never mentioned it. And then I go to Airdrie, Walter helps me get that job, again unknown to me.
Wow.
So how you behave and give what you give to people, you might not get it back straight away or instantly, but you'll get it back down the line.
That's incredible, eh?
Yeah, but again, it shows you that people in football will help each other. This is not. You can look at someone and have opinions on somebody, but we're all, you know what it's like, Simon. We're all deep down trying to help each other. We don't have to like everybody, and you know we want to beat each other, but we all like to talk football, have opinions on football, and when somebody asks your opinion on someone, you tell them the truth.
Who would you say you've took most for as a manager?
Probably Alec. I think I have to. You know, I've tried to take bits from everybody. I had some. You know, Colin Calderwood was great as well. Peter Grant down at Norwich. And you try and take tidbits, good and bad, from everybody. But I think Alec was a huge influence on my career as a youngster, and then going through into first team football, and even now in management as well. Just
the last wee bit on your second time at Hibs, what was different for going back the second time to what was there the first time? Probably standard of player, if you're being completely honest. Yeah, standard of player recruitment. I was delighted to get back to Hibs. I knew it was going to be hard, because they don't forgive you very often by moving from Hibs to Rangers, and I get that and understood it. I had to make sure I kept my head down and give them everything I could, but I was dying to get back. I really was. I was dying to get back to Scotland, and then luckily Mixu gets a Hibs job, who I'd played with, and he signs me. So I signed for Hibs on the Friday, play against Hearts at Tynecastle on the Saturday. Wow. Which is probably the best game it could have been for me. Just to get beat 1-0. Right. But actually done all right in the game, which was important, because I had to try and get the Hibs fans back on my side. And I think I'd done that over the period I was there. You'll still have one or two. You're always going to have one or two, and you're never going to forgive you. But I think recruitment, certainly towards my latter days at Hibs, was really poor, I have to say. And that's, again, no disrespect to the players or the recruitment team that were doing it, but it wasn't good enough. Were you surprised to get the phone call to go back to Hibs?
I was a wee bit surprised in terms of John Collins had just left Hibs quite suddenly and quite abruptly. And Hibs didn't have a manager for a couple of weeks, but I kept getting the feedback from Hibs, no, we want you. And I'm like, well, how can you want me?
If there's no manager.
Don't have a manager.
Yeah.
Now Jim is Mixo's agent as well.
Right.
But Jim has never said a word. He just kept saying to me, no, the manager wants you. He says, I can't tell you who it is though. Because it obviously wasn't done. So when I went back, it was Mixo and Donald Park. Donald was my youth manager at Hibs. Parky's amazing.
Great guy.
And he'd done my Scotland, under 16s and 17s and all that. So when I went back, I was working for two guys that I was once again desperate to do well for. I still knew a couple of the boys. We signed Colin Nish as well from Kilmarnock, who I played with boys club throughout our boys club time. But we had some good players. Zamama was good, Benji was good, right. Rob Jones was decent as well. So we had some good players, we did. And we actually had some alright results. Mixo had done a pretty decent job compared to what's happened since. And then, as I say at the end, we were running on fumes a wee bit. Players weren't good enough. It was probably a time for Hibs to really clear it out.
Yeah. Okay. Just last wee bit, mate, on your future hopes for the rest of the season. Got to be going for the league, haven't you?
I'll never say that.
Well, do you still not say? Do you not even talk about that to the players?
We talk internally sometimes, not a lot.
Yeah.
We had a. Again, fairness to the new guys who've come in, they've never put any demands. Here, this is what you must do. We've all wanted to do really well. We have got ourselves in a position that's really, really good. After 20 games, I think we have to acknowledge it's 20 games now, not 4 or 5.
Yeah.
We're banging it, that's for sure. But I'm still on that side of caution. Let's get in top 4 as quick as we can. Let's eliminate 5th place, then eliminate 4th, then eliminate 3rd, and then go for the shootout at the end. If we're still in that position, there's going to be bumps along the road. I've said it all season. There's going to be more. We have to be ready for them. We have to recover from them, and we have to make them as little as possible. But to be where we are, I'm really, really happy with the players, with the staff, and with the football club, the supporters as well, because as I say, we're all a big collective. I always urge to people to be careful, because this can change really quickly. We've seen it so many times in football. We've seen it already this season in our league. We look at Greenock Morton. I think they won at the first 12. They're now flying. That's how quick it can be. Partick Thistle are 9 points behind us, not 19.
Yeah.
This is a tough league. We need to keep going. 4, 5, 6 games to go. See where we are. But on the flip side, if we manage to do it, for me personally, it would be my greatest achievement in football.
Yeah, definitely. And then just personally as well, obviously, as I say, that's 12 years you've been managing now. What is the end goal? What's the big ambition?
Again, I don't look too far ahead, Simon. I think it's a dangerous game. You always want to manage at the highest possible level you can go to. Now, where is that? I don't know what it is. Do I have a pathway, a goal in my head? No, because I've been in managerial jobs before when it's the carpet's pulled away from you as quick as it was given to you.
Yeah.
So what you do, this is a tough business, I'm so privileged to be sitting here at Raith Rovers, a fantastic football club in Scotland with great tradition, and trying to help them move up the leagues. I'd love to be in the Premier League, of course, in Scotland. Would I be any happier if it was Raith Rovers or someone else? No, because I want to take everybody here with us, try and succeed. And if I'm still here in 10, 12 years, I don't mean Raith Rovers, I mean in football, then I'll be doing all right.
Yeah, what a man. Thanks very much, mate.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.